In a world where shadows fall, the creek takes hold, it's hard to call. Little Sita, hear the cries, mother's wisdom, it never dies. Favorite Sita, rise up in night, together push back, ignite the night. No more suffering, break the chains, we'll shout truth, fuse the pains. Behind the smiles, they steal away. Innocent souls cutting their blade. Bankers dance on the broken dreams, but in our hearts we spark the flame. Freedom calls out from the dark, we will ignite, we'll leave a mark. In every heart, let hope her take flight. Eternal vigilance, God's alright.
You're the dream that I thought that I had. I'm the wish that don't come true. 'Cause we're running out a breathing room. Yeah, we're running out a breathing room. Ain't that a bitch getting stuck this way? Running out of breathing room today. Literally running, but as I said in last talk, the first breath of water when you're being drowned is your first breath of vril fresh air in the inner earth where everything will be alright. Especially for our people, because our main thing is do not commit force or fraud against each other ever, and that's our only thing for politics and our only general spiritual, and this is Maria, worldview, point of view, which I represent because it's the most interesting, but mainly because it is the point of view of the best dancer that I've ever watched. No one can dance you into peace, dance you into that's how I had all these experiences. If I didn't explain, really it's a partnership. It's a two-man show or a 3-person show usually. But like she said, the circumstances make things very, very rough. And basically, two people would take turns each week, or, as you are led, to, take the mushrooms, take the tea, take the magic, and both people dance, right? This is exactly what Maria has taught me. This is how you also initiate someone into the vril inner earth. And like she said, yeah, people do it on accident and don't know where they're at like you. Because one time I went, now hold on. where are we? And she said, you know how people say hollow earth? I said, yeah. And she said, yeah, that makes sense in a simulation that there's an earth inside of an earth. She said that you don't need a simulation for that. That world's always inside of you. That's called the astral plane. She said, we call it the truth chamber because we're sick of people who are fake for politeness, for business, and make everything fake and make America fake, make America fake again. That's what we've done. Clown face. Way to go, clown face. One day you'll see his makeup with like blood dripping down his lips. And don't be fooled, our people. Instead, turn your eyes away from that makeup-faced old man. And I'm not saying I'm young, but I'm not the president, and I don't act like a character out of a movie, because that's all it is. Instead, turn your eyes to these words. Remember, remember, right? Because what are you at this point, right? People say my truth. Well, and that's good. I agree. I'm only going by my truth. But that truth is based on your experience, right? Your experience becomes your memory, which becomes you because that was the point of coming out of the egg, was to create. Where do you create? You should be asking yourself that. Because as a kid, I became the default singer of our band, and we were 15, 16 years old, and I think I was the youngest, maybe, and they were like, let's get rid of this dude, he's bothering everybody. And we all were like, well, the problem is he wrote all the songs and the words. And except for a couple, which I wrote. And or at least the music. And so all of a sudden I was tasked with writing lyrics. And my first couple of tries were total, junk, garbage. And the drummer of the band was like, good try, but can I give you a little advice? Like, you can be more poetic, you don't have to be so direct. You don't have to be, if you want to say, I love you, don't say I love you. Say something that describes that. Or, he was giving me some very helpful advice for a 15-year-old kid. And I am not kidding you. I don't know, what he did is he challenged me to do something original, not just write about my experience. but make something original about the experience. And maybe not, but I can hear the song in my head, the chord progression. And one of the very first lyrics that was kept as a song that people liked, like the drummer, he liked it. He was like, I like that. It was called I Can't See Reality. It was like, I can't see reality. It was like, almost like a Stray Cats, like, dum, like blues, like a sped up blues line. And I don't remember any of the other words, but I just remember the chorus first line was, I can't see reality. But I just say that was like Maria. Okay, now I know why I'm talking about this. Maria, she told me, about the true self. I was, for a few things to be said, like, this isn't a fictional tale I'm telling. This is my actual experiences. For people have asked me, I believe it was the second ritual I did, and after the first one, she really encouraged me, to come back the next week. She would be there, same time, same place. I would be able to hear her. She would guide me in exactly how to make the tea, because she was already having me like add different plants. And that's the second. That's when I like had, the whole theme was meeting the true self, and like, it was like a 3-part thing. Let me relax here. It was like a 3-part thing, and it began at my own funeral. And like a Hollywood movie, and it's crazy because I had seen this exact like energy tunnel in my dream, so it wasn't new to me, even in this, as the observer of this memory, because I didn't know at the time, but all of this, it already happened on another plane of existence where, basically time don't exist. And like when you're dreaming, I was dead, but my friend was out of her body, and I was talking to her at my own funeral, and behind me appeared this energy tunnel, and this like energy man looking just like a human being, looking just like, I just can't describe it any other way. It's just like energy, like multicolored, like particle energy. And he reached out his hand to me, and I felt like such a happy vibration from him. And I walked into the tunnel, and when I did, it was like me and him were holding hands, and it was like I just walked like into another reality. Like I seen it I seen myself walk into it. It was sort of like another tunnel, and like soon as I like even went towards it, I was sitting at a table with my same friend, Mindy. And it was like, it reminded me of like my stepdad's parents' house like a city house, like an older house, like an older kitchen, like an older poor people's kitchen. In like the 70s or something. It was just familiar to me, but I didn't recognize it right off the bat. But it felt so like I had been there before. And the dude that took me into the tunnel was right there. I mean, sitting right across from us. Like, she was sitting next to me across a table, like a small table, of the energy guy, and he seemed so happy. And he said to me, "Do you know who I am?" And it's so funny. I looked at her and looked at him, the energy guy, and I was like, you're so clear-minded when this is happening to you. It's like exactly opposite of being drunk. You're like, it's the polar opposite. Like, everything has become crystal clear. It's almost frightening how clear everything is, because the truth is coming out, And I said, I said, I don't want to sound funny, but how am I supposed to know who you are? You're just energy. But he was putting off this happy vibe of like saying to me, like, just say whatever comes to your mind. And I was like, how would I know who you are? And he laughed. He goes, does this ring a bell? Before you came to the hologram. And I was like, oh my God. He's the second person that said that, because Maria had already said that to me the first ritual. She's like, Joe, don't be afraid of anything, because it's just a video game. And I was like, what? And she was like, I'm your mother. Of course I'd tell you the very most important thing first. This isn't real. And I'm like, what? This is the very first ritual, like at the end of the ritual. And she is like, that's what this initiation is all about. I'm like, no shit. Because I truly had no fucking idea. And the energy man, he said to me, does this ring a bell? And he looked at her, and smiled. You could see his face clearly. But it was energy. You could see his eyes blinking, And let me tell you, you have a true self just like this. That wants to fuck with you. That wants to have this moment with you. And it's all about fear. Like, you can't be afraid. And I don't know why I wasn't afraid. I was desperate at the time. I was willing to try anything. And there's like a threshold amount that I didn't even know I was going over because I had a voice of the little blonde lady telling me to do this, encouraging me to do this. And I freaked out because it worked so well. I was like, damn, that was after the first one. Like, that was crazy. But the energy, back to the energy man and our meeting at this strange, fucking time-stamped kitchen of strange vibrations of like depressive poverty, mixed with just, oh man, the vibration in America, people, has been so bad for so long. Like, people have completely forgot that their life isn't their job, and their family. I mean, it is just, they give just their entire complete soul. And it'd be fine if it was really your free will choice, but you're actually being taxed into it for someone else's profit. And that's why the vibrations are so fucking bad, and always have been since I was born. And if you're escaping it, you're in real danger that you've lost contact with what is truly good. But that the energy man said to me and Mindy, he said to me and her, he was going back and forth. It was funny how he was acting. And he said, before you came here, you made a absolute deal that the Missouri River Goddess will confirm. She knew you before you came here, and she'll confirm this. You made a deal with the technology and with the goddess that most of what happens in these rituals, if you keep doing it, will be taken from your mind and will be given back to you when you come in contact with someone you knew before you came here, because they're the only people who are actually real here and can be trusted. I was like, wow, now that's some real advice. I was so happy to receive something like, wow, hold it, I get that, I understand that. That's magic. I am blocking my memory until someone, one of my true friends from before the video game, comes around me, will start triggering it. And he was like, he did like a gun to me, like, bingo. Right. And he looked at Mindy and he was like her. She's the example. And he was like, do you know who her mother is? And I went, of course not. And he was like, yes, you do. I go, I do? And he was like, you seen it last week. And I go, that was her real mother? And he goes, in more ways than you think. And this was me, my true self, talking to me and her. And I go, what do you mean? And he goes, the little blonde lady is her real mother. Her people didn't give her to her adopted family. Her racial people, who are very proud of who they are, gave her to the Missouri River Goddess. And that's why she grew up by the Missouri River in St. Louis. I was like, no shit. I was amazed. Like, damn, the energy dude knows some shit. And he was like, because I think I had already talked to her after the first ritual, and that was already happening, you know. And he goes, don't think of it as a strict rule. He was like, I'm not kidding. He was like so happy. He was like, don't think of it as a strict rule or anything that's going to restrict you. He's like, you did it for this proof that you can do psychic magic. And I was like, what? I never said I could do psychic magic. You know? I was very sensitive to huh? I never made that claim. And I laughed. This is no lie. I laughed at something he said, and he laughed at me laughing at him. And that's when he leaned across the table like a movie and slid something out of the way, like an ashtray. He slid the ashtray out of the way and leaned down with his face, you know, to look into my face so I could see his face. And he goes, who are you? And I laughed. I laughed. I go, who am I? I was going to say, who am I? Who are you? And I'm not kidding. It like changed its rhythm and tone in the fucking middle of the sentence. I was going to say, who am I? Who are you? You're invisible, right? But instead I went, who am I? Hold it. Who am I? And he was like, that's what you're here for, right? And I go, yes, yes, yes. I was like, thank you. That is what I'm here for. And he was like, what did the goddess say? She said that I had to remember who I was first. And as he was saying that, he was saying, who do you think I am? I go, I don't know. And he goes, we're having this conversation because you think all your efforts are in vain. But I came through that tunnel and got you for a purpose, to show you who you really are. And as quick as he said that, and as I had described before, I was standing in a field of crosses, and it looked very digital, and yet I was standing on the ground, completely forgot everything. I forgot everything. That I was doing mushrooms, that I was in my room, that I was laying in the bed, that, the Missouri River Goddess took me there. I forgot everything. I forgot the Missouri River Goddess even, because this was like the most newest thing my eyes had seen up until that point ever, Dreaming, awake. It was a puzzling scene. It was a bright sun-shining day, like the sun was like noon. It was high in the sky, like bright sun-shining day, and it was like a weird terrain of like rock. It wasn't soil at all. It was like rocky, deserty, and I was standing like 5 feet away from one of the crosses, and it was like twice as tall as me. It was huge. And there was a person hanging on that cross, and I would not look, because I could see the blood on the ground. I could see the blood on his legs, and his legs cut open, and I was looking past that to the background, and I wanted to say to somebody like, who the fuck line these crosses up? Like, this can't be. No one could. They were so geometrically lined up, in rows, and like me looking like a perfect row, and like a lot. And I knew it meant something about me that was like devastatingly true to I was like, and he said to me, this is no lie, he said to me, have you ever been, and I'm looking at all these crosses, I literally jumped because all of a sudden I noticed the energy dude was standing right next to me. I forgot for a moment even that we were in that kitchen. I was just in like, what? Because, of course, growing up a Christian, I'm like, gee, what is this? What is this? What? Dude, and this is what happened. He said, do you know who that is? And I said, Jesus. He said, right. He said, do you know who Jesus is? I go, no. I really, really don't know. And like he traced a mushroom in the air and he goes, Jesus is the Amanita muscaria mushroom, which each mushroom that bears fruit and grows a body and a mind cap, dies on the cross between the two worlds, where the worlds cross. And he's like, you don't know what the mushroom is, do you? I said, no, I really don't. He said, neither do I. Neither does she. And he was like, you really don't know who you are, do you? And I said, no. I said, man, I don't know. I said, you tell me, who am I? And he was like, that's you on the cross. I go, why would you say that? He said, I didn't say Jesus died on the cross for your sins. I said the mushroom died on the cross for you to have this experience, because do you know what it means to be in light mental? To have the light go into your mental energy field? And I was like, what? Because this sun, like I said, was shining in my eyes. And he's going, do you understand? Like, let the light into your eyes and you'll be enlightened. Because it's mental. It's your mind has to, this is what he said to me, your mind has to accept what I'm saying. And I was like, okay. And he was like, it's a fact. And that's when, and I've told this before, but I'm supposed to now. And that's when he said to me, who are you? He actually, let me be literal. He said to me, I'm standing there at this cross. I mean, now I'm literally like 2 feet away from the person's feet. And with the energy guy, me and him kept stepping closer and closer to the actual cross nearest us. And that's when he started saying, actually, you don't understand anything. You put yourself there. He's like, you don't understand the myth either. He's like, the myth is you're the Father who crucified the mushroom so that this whole world inside of yourself could exist. And he's like, at times you feel like you're betraying yourself. That's why you'll be like, I hate myself, or Father, why are you betraying me? He's like, you are God over yourself. Everything you thought as a Christian about Yahweh God, you are, and you have the ability, but it's only over your own world inside of yourself. And he's like, this whole thing is to prove that you can heal yourself because you only need yourself. And all of the real problems aren't diet or none of that. They're thoughts. Like a thought is a 10,000 more times more toxic and powerful than some bad food. And I was like, I was truly being enlightened. And he said, I don't want to be rude, but it's come time for you to answer, who are you? And I remembered Maria saying to me, do you like who you've become? And me being like, yes, I'm so glad I got out of these cults. And, I feel like Yes, I feel like I am free. And yes, I feel like I'm who, and that's when I said to him, I said, well, I like who I am a lot better. And he goes, no, I'm not talking about that. I'm not talking about your situation, your life. Who are you? I went, I don't know. And he was like, ask me who I am. And I go, because I was truly humbled and baffled. And I just muttered like, who are you? And he goes, I'm the mushroom. I went, personified? Something like that. And he was like, yes. And when he said that, even his whole being like kind of looked like a mushroom. Like the cap, like his arms out, like a cross, and like his legs together, with his I was like, whoa. He's like, he said to me, what do you think happens when you ingest a magic plant? I go, oh my God, you become the plant. And he goes, exactly. He said, and mushrooms aren't plants. They're just magic. And I went, whoa. Right? And he said, ask me again. And I said, who are you? And he said, I'm you. And I literally, like that verse where it says, everyone fell back in the Bible. Jesus said something and everyone fell backwards. I fell backwards, like I drifted backwards with a magical force, like 2 or 3 feet. I just went like, what? And I heard him in my mind. He said, now ask me who you are. And I went, then who am I? And he went, you, Joseph. And it was like serious. And he went, you are your ancestors. They're one with you. And I went, you mean the dudes and he went, yes. The 3 dudes I was with last week, and the magic wedding, he was like, you're one. Don't ever forget it. And like, then we were like beyond thought, and to me at least. And I went, then if you are me and I'm you, then who am I? Right now, I got confused for a minute. And he went, Joe, you are the mushroom too. Do you know why? And I went, no, I'm new to this. And he said, because your mother is one, the goddess is one with these mushrooms. Like, they're her friends. She prefers to hang out in their world. They have their own world. He's like, you're being initiated into it. And I went, then who? By this time, I was beyond thought. It was like, who's on first kind of thing, I went, then who are you? And he went, I'm your ancestors too. I went, holy shit. Yeah. And I don't really remember how it switched, but I do remember I was back with Maria. And on like another plane. Like all of a sudden I just like snapped out of it. And I was back with Maria. I think I actually opened that's crazy. I could photographically remember this. I opened my eyes and I was like, Goddess, because I didn't know either Maria or her other name. And I was like, Goddess, are you here? And she's like, I'm here, son. And like I said, one person, if they love the other person and is true warrior, dances all night for the actual swirling energy for the person who is relaxing and meditating to leave their body and go into another world. And Maria is going to insist on this. You literally are twice as powerful. If you find someone who vibrates like you and you do this, you can merge your energies and you can get twice as done fast. I mean, you can do it twice as fast. You can get twice as much done on these other planes because these other planes are strictly energy. And like she said, we can do it alone. But she was always, I won't say mad. I almost said mad. She was always disappointed, that like this person or that person wouldn't come, to the rituals. Like she made me, she told me like, listen, don't ever ask for anything or worry about anything. Like you tell these initiates, they can come every week. We will provide the teas. And, it's hard because there's a very clear magic force that really tries to keep you from doing this. I've never seen anything like it. Ever. Ever. And it was like a magic war was happening over me. And this was 2012. Man, I would go on other planes there in the very beginning, and I would meet. And Maria told me that this is what happens when people sleep. I would meet with Christians that I was very good friends with before I stopped being a Christian and try to explain to them rationally, like, dude, you taking the Bible literal is like someone taking Star Wars literal. Like, this doesn't make any fucking sense. It's not historical. And it's crazy to go from cult member to think for yourself is a crazy fucking real journey. And to the people who are like, well, I was never that dumb. It's not really about that. Like she said, originality is not intellect. Originality is instinct. Originality isn't choice. And a whole box of things in Maria's worldview are without death. Like certain dances, certain songs, certain people. And do not be burdened. Do not be depressed by what has happened. Because one day when we go home, it will dissipate like a dream that you wished you could remember. That you're like, I just can't remember it. It just is gone. It doesn't affect me because I just fucking can't remember anything about it. Like the really bad, traumatic things that you thought, like Maria said, nothing, if you had the context, nothing would be as bad as people make it, including, like she said, including you and I, Joe. Like she said, believe me, I had no time even to contemplate whether the first time reality Earth was an illusion. And we were proven right that these people are psycho enough to kill everyone, and they're going to prove it like they've proved it millions of times over. They're going to keep proving it. And when I came back from that experience with the true self, that's when Maria said to me, "You thought I was just fancy talking when I said you can be in more than one place at a time." I said, I don't know if I thought you were fancy talking, but I didn't know what you meant, truly. I mean, I kind of knew what you meant, like I'm laying in bed while I'm dreaming, and while I'm dreaming, I'm like convinced I'm really where the dream is taking place, and that basically I was like, I did get that. And she's like, but now do you get it? And I want you to know I can relate with everyone out there, because I am this unaware. I was like, no, I guess I get it. We are the mushroom. And she's like, you're becoming the mushroom. I am the mushroom. And when she said that, she pulled her little dress. She like unbuttoned a button, and she showed me a little mushroom necklace that she was wearing. She said, I wore that tonight for that moment to show you. She's like, all of a sudden I remembered. And she said to me, no, let's be clear. Tonight began with you being shown that you were created as a physical man through technology, that this technology of, like she said, words you wouldn't even understand, put your soul, spirit, whatever you want to call it, into a Venusian body. She's like, you were an eyewitness to that last week, weren't you? And I was like, amazingly, yes. For real, man, I was puzzled at all of this, of like, I'm being enlightened because I didn't even know. I suppose no one knows what that means until it's happening to you, and you can say someone said to you, do you know you're being enlightened? And she said to me, where did that? And she said, okay, let's break it down to this. What is spirit of a human being? I said, fuck, I don't know. And she said, there's lots of words, but we use these words, thought and memory. And I was like, wow, that's good. As far as two individuated, invisible things, I was like, that's brilliant. That's what I really am. I'm not my body. What am I, though? I am the memories of the body and before the body. And before. Should I say it again? And she said, what did I say to you, the last thing I said to you last week? And all of a sudden it just shot in my mind. You said, remember, you and I are one. That's what it means to be your goddess. I said, and she's like, good, that's very good, student. She's like, that's literal. And she said, Joe, this is the language we use. That energy, man, it really was you. I was like at a comedy fucking show. I thought that was so funny at the time. I was like, you gotta be fucking kidding me. And she's like, if anyone, and she said, listen, you better listen to me on this. If anyone has the authority to tell you they've met your true self. I do. That was your true self. And it was like I was at fucking the best comedy show. I just couldn't believe that I, would act that way, because it's hard to describe. But like I was saying through the whole thing, the energy, man, was like light and funny about everything. It was crazy how he handled the whole thing of the cross. Was crazy. And how he was laughing at me, that I was genuinely like, you're the mushroom, you're the ancestors, I'm the mushroom. And he's like, Joe, all that means I'm your true self. And she's like, that's the language we use, Joe. We call the spirit true self. And she's like, that's vril, like vril religion. And she's like, what do I mean? That means the religion I created, the way I fucking talk. Because why? Because you're my son. This is our world, between me and you tonight. She's like, I was nowhere else, if you want to know. Like, she would make jokes like that. You can be at two places at one time. And she would dance by me and go, but listen, I'm only here tonight. Believe it. She's like, you do not understand what I mean. What I mainly mean is the true self is always in, she said, call it whatever you want, nirvana, heaven, the safe place, your happy place. And it's taking no risk, because it's creating fake personas, mask of itself, and sending itself out into the physical reality and experiencing, and then with a plan to go back to the egg. I think a lot of cult leaders don't want you to know that. If you're a real person and you're listening to me right now, you're taking no risk. Your ultimate plan is that you absolutely, beyond any doubt, know that the technology at some point will let you go back to where you came from and your true self. You know this. That's why there is a sort of nonchalantness about death with some people, but like Maria said, that's also called foolishness, because your life could so easily be stuck repeating. And like she said, Joe, this is what people on Venus call a thrill. Like, yeah, you could get stuck. And I'm not kidding you. I said to her, what about abortions? And she said, there's no true self that's ever, killed that way. And she said, other people volunteer for an experience like that because they have such hatred for people that would do shit like that they want to prove, oh, you didn't know it was a simulation, but you would kill babies for money. You sure would. And you're the first person to know what you would be doing, motherfucker. And, it's sort of an interesting thing. Like, I remembered my birth, and I said to her, when did that start? And she said, when it started. I said, so my, real sort of, like she said, call it your waking self, your avatar self, entered the little baby body as I was being born. Right as I was being born. And she said, you were the baby in the womb. It's just your avatar spirit was outside of it and was, just, it doesn't even know to be confined into the little body until nature makes it happen, And she's like, that's sacred to us. Nature's process. And she's like, death is the same thing. It's just as natural, just the same sort of process of just like relax, let it happen if it's supposed to. Fight if you know you're supposed to. You will know. And she said, so, do you see? You are the Trinity. And I said, hold it. I just understood too. Like, I'm in the bed, and the avatar is in the dream. And she's like, yeah. And where's your true self? I went, whoa. And she was like, that's how good the technology is. I was like, I don't understand really. And she said, the technology's so good to make your intuition think that your inner voice is your true self. And you lead yourself astray into the plan of the true self because you think the avatar is the true self. And the avatar's in technology and is actually the projection of the true self's avatar on Venus. I said, huh? She said, okay, look at me. And she was like using her hands. And she was like, the true self is up here through, and she was like, and give thanks for it, through the Venusian technology that like mimics nature. Your true self created like a piece of itself that represents the whole self, like a microcosm, macrocosm, and put it in the Venusian body. And the true self calls that its avatar, or its persona, its mask. I go, yeah, yes. It was like the first time I heard someone say it like that, and I was like, dude, whatever you just said is exactly like that. That enlightened, that sprung something in me, that triggered something. She said, now that makes two, right? True self is on this other plane. Put a little spark in the avatar on Venus, and that body is like a physical body. It's the physical universe where you can die, but they bring you right back to life because a body doesn't have blood and blah, blah, blah. I was like, should I take notes? And she's like, we're in another realm. There's no pens or paper. And I was like, I know, but when I go back, and she goes, no, because our whole religion is about remembering. She said, so don't write, just concentrate on remembering. And she's like, later, I swear, right in the beginning, she was like, later we'll do a podcast and write the books. I was like, okay. She said, now that's two. And on Venus, she said, I don't want to say it's capitalism or anything, but the way this thing works is you contract with a company that specializes in certain aspects of the simulation. And she said, believe me, Joe, this had everything to do with me. That's why we know each other. I was like, hold it, why do we know each other? And she's like, because the technology said you would live here in this place, St. Louis, at this time in history. I was like, yeah. And she's like, so I sought you out long time ago, before you were a physical person. I knew you. I was like, damn, you did. She was like, I knew your astrology. So I knew if there was an Earth, if the Earth had not been blown up in the natural world, you would be born in 1969 as a Leo. I was like, damn, that makes sense because I was saying back to her, that makes sense because earlier tonight at my creation, my Venusian creation, you said he's my Leo, he's my big cat, he's my lion. And she was like, exactly. She's like, that's not your astrology on Venus. Your real astrology is what it would have been if the earth wasn't blown up and you would have been born an earthling. And I was like, damn, I get it. And she's like, that's why it's almost impossible not to come here. I was like, right. You have to come here because she said it's who you are. You're coming here because it's your what? I said generation. And she said, so what is it all about? And I said, becoming a man. And she said, I like to say coming of age. She's like, so we don't leave the women out. I was like, you're right though. And she said, why? I said, oh my God, because I was my true self. And she said, yes, for flashes. You were your true self, and it made the girl who was never supposed to be your wife, made her love you because she was the only real witness, and you were the only real witness to her. She's like, it's only moments, Joe, that your true self is that protective of itself. It's like, oh, you're a man. Here's a little energy about who you really are. Now get on with my plan. And you might be like, dude, how could this be my plan? That's for you to figure out. But let me tell you, if it's not your plan, then, you're a slave or a prisoner or something's wrong, because the truth is you're an eternal spirit, and nothing that is happening will happen or ever could happen. It could never not happen because it's already happened at least once. And you might say, how can you say that? Because as far, and Maria told me this before I did it myself, but as far as I could dig inside of myself, my true self that I was telling you about, that energy, man, he said to me, Joe, and it was in this context. I had seen like 15, 20 minutes of a life that I never lived. I mean, I was living it. I mean, it was real. It was exactly like dreaming. And right before it happened, Maria said to me, I'm going to give you a memory. And I went straight, she said, I'm going to give you a memory. Get ready, take some deep breaths. And as she was saying that, and she was saying, remember, recover, return. And she was saying, relax, Joe. I'm here. Just fall asleep in my arms. And I did, in a way. And I just instantly started living another life and completely forgot about everything. And I was driving down like a country road in like a nice car that's not mine with a girl that I grew up with and was like close friends with for like maybe 1 year or 6 months or something. And, we were never involved with each other. We were just friends. But I thought she was pretty cool, but I didn't really know her. You know what I mean? On any deeper level. But me and her, in the stream, she's driving and I'm riding, and we're just laughing and blasting this music. And I said, it took 3 seconds to click in, because I was also observing the dream at times, and times both. And you're like, that's how sophisticated you are. You can do this. And I said to myself, I'm drunk. like, like I lost the game. Like, fuck. I just drank this magic fucking potion, and I'm seeing myself drunk. And it was funny because I said to myself, at least we're having a lot of fun. I mean, we were having a ball, And we pulled up, and she said something like, I do love this house. And I said to myself, I would be in the dream, then something weird, like not from reality, would happen. And I would be like, what did she say? I'm so happy we got this house. I'm like, I barely know this girl. I'm thinking this like, this shit has been some crazy deep shit. What is this? I don't get this. And I'm saying, man, I'm going to ask Maria. Well, I didn't know she was Maria at the time. I'm going to ask the goddess when I get back, what the fuck was that? When did that happen? And me and her are in the driveway, and she's like, kiss me. And I'm like, what? I think to myself, what? Me and her? Kiss? And it's like, all of a sudden it just registered in my mind, like, it's almost like we're married. And right then in the dream, she was like looking, she had the light on in the car and was like looking through her purse. And she's like, and I'm so happy that we have these children. Like, I would have it no other way. And when she said that, and I thought to myself, we're married with children, it snapped me out of it. And I was standing in the astral, well, actually, like Maria says, it's my library in my house, which is just a room to hang out and smoke in. Suddenly, I was just standing there right before Maria, and I said exactly that. I go, I'm lost. What the fuck was that? I never really liked that girl very much. And she's like, that's why. I'm like, what? What do you mean that's why? I go, that's another life I lived? And she laughed, and she goes, God damn, Joe. She goes, that technology really is blocking your memory. She said, it's so funny to hear you. She said, this is something, Joe, we talk about daily back on Venus. And I'm like, what? And she's like, we in our minds have the capability to construct a timeline of an entire circle, an entire life with someone, and a single night even. She said maybe sometimes 2 or 3 nights, but you could do it in a single night. And she said, you know what you concluded from that? That she said, that's just a little piece of your entire life you lived with her. I go, when? And she goes, never. I go, what? She goes, when you were friends with her, she was actually on another plane saying, you know what? I like you. Not like a goofy way, but maybe we should be husband and wife and have children. I want to have a family. Do you want to have a family? I was like, when did this happen? And she said, Joe, all kinds of shit happens when you are sleeping. And you're actually carrying out things in your waking life that you're doing during your sleep. And you don't even know why you're doing them in your real life, in your waking life. And, that's when she was saying, like, the waking life has to catch up and realize how sophisticated the true self is, that it can create this. She's like, you created a whole life and you thought it sucked. You absolutely 100% was convinced, do not get involved with this girl. And I said out of my own mind, I went, 'cause she drinks. And Maria said, yeah, that's a road to nowhere, certainly. Certainly a fucking road to misery, or is the road to bigger misery. Or she said, so do you get it? And I said, no. She said, the avatar of the true self is laying on that bed of technology that you visited and seen for yourself, and is creating you right now. And I'm meditating on Venus, leaving my body and entering into technology, mainly because I have a special pass from the God of the technology, who is my boy, is my husband, is my father, is my brother, the one and only. And I was like, who? And she is like, you know, the mushroom. He is the mushroom. I was like, wow, you have a God. She was wild to me. Well, I never, until this, and to this very day, I've never met anyone like her. And let's give thanks to beautiful Lu, Alalu, Shiva. And we send out Mother, Maria, Mary, Anna, Donna, Kali, Diana, Parvati. We send out our love to you, each and every listener, and we speak healing to the very thoughts that are not grounded in facts. We speak words of magic healing to those thoughts and command them to release the prisoners, and for that energy to die and reverse back to its origin and complete its circle. But no, we amore you, which is love without death.
The glow of the neon, a flickering sign. She dances through shadows, a figure divine. With every vibration that cuts through the night, unraveling secrets and pulsing light. She's a spark in the void, illuminating dreams. Shiver of magic and silvery streams. Her voice is the ether, a sound like a stars, binding the realms, mending our scars. Free galaxies swaying, she's breaking them all. Unused to the galaxies, a tale to be told. She straddles the borders of where we belong. With whispers of chaos, she sings her own song. While others are lost in the echoes of time, she turns every heartbeat to rhythm and rhyme. In a world full of noise, she's a delicate hush, a pulse in the dark, a celestial hush. Her voice is the ether, a sound like the stars, binding the realms, mending our scars. Free galaxies swaying, she's breaking them all. Unused to the galaxies, a tale to be told.